Inu is an insanely strong student who becomes the leader of a ruthless school gang which is in a gang war against the gang that is led by his childhood crush. His only goal is to use his strength to his advantage and save his crush from getting hurt so one day they can be together. In Dahlia Academy, students have formed two gangs known as the Black Dogs led by Inu and the White Cats led by Persia. Their gangs engage in brutal battles all the time, and during one such battle, they both are ready to demolish the other clan and the battle starts. All the gang members start punching and kicking each other to the ground while Inu decides to take on Persia on his own, which gets a cheer from his clan. Persia is not one to back off either, and they both run each other and jump in the air but miss. A nerd starts simping and tells Persia that he will defeat Inu for him, but Inu punches him in the face before picking him up for a slam, but he gets slapped by Persia, who saves the nerd as she likes her simps. Inu says that he goes easy on her because she's a girl, which angers Persia, but before they can fight, the prefect of the White Cat clan walks in and everyone stops fighting immediately. She tells them to stop the fight, but Inu doesn't listen to her, so she threatens to call the Black Dog prefect, which silences him. The gangs disperse in their buildings, and inside the class, Inu seems to be depressed and walks out before hitting the pillar, and thinks about how they have always fought since childhood, but the truth is that he has always loved her, and he only fights to make sure she never gets hurt by anyone. He destroys the pillar while thinking about the simp before thinking whether he should confess. On the other side, Persia spars with one of the students and defeats him with ease, but is still not happy as she wants to defeat Inu, who never fights her because she is a girl. Inu sees all this and starts slamming his head in frustration when some White Cat boys start bullying some Black Dog kids, but Persia intervenes and saves the kids, which immediately makes Inu's heart bounce and his bone hard. Before he realizes, he goes in front of her and almost confesses but gets scared and runs away. Later that evening, she gets followed by two Black Dog guys who try to attack her, but she dodges and kicks one of them to the ground while kicking the other one away as well, but one of the hidden guys pepper spray her before they grab her and put a tape to her mouth and were going to hit her, but Inu arrives at the last moment and saves her. Persia starts crying and runs away while Inu gets depressed again. He returns back to his dorm where the three guys try to attack him for saving her, but he simply punches them all one by one before telling them never to do that again. Suddenly, an arrow comes with a message for Inu as Persia wants to talk, so he goes to meet her where she is ready with two swords and screams at him for not considering her an equal, which reminds Inu that she is the only daughter of a very powerful man and wants to become a girl boss to inherit everything. He agrees to a duel and says that he won't hold back this time as Persia throws him the sword. They take out their sword and run at each other, resulting in a massive clash where Inu confesses his love for her, which flusters her, and she starts attacking him again and again before their sword clash again, but this only results in Persia upping her intensity as she keeps attacking him without a pause, forcing him to block her sword. Persia gets embarrassed and pushes him into the fountain and gets in as well. After getting wet, she agrees to date him, which makes Inu cry, and they go back to their dorms. The next day, Inu runs up to talk to Persia, but she coldly shuts him up and walks away. They once again gather in the yard to fight as they are all jobless, but Inu seems distracted with love. He pretends to get serious, but as the battle begins, he runs happily to Persia. Everyone engages in brutal combat, while even Persia strikes with her wand, but Inu grabs it because he practices every day with his own wand. During the chaotic fight, Hasuki attacks the nerd and looks around for Inu but can't find him. Meanwhile, Inu happily runs away and tells her that she wanted to spend some time with her alone. Persia rejects his moves again, which breaks his fantasy of doing lovey-dovey stuff with her, while she walks back, but he grabs her and starts confessing his love again when Hasuki comes, and he immediately pretends to attack Persia and picks her in the air. This pisses Persia off, who delivers a beautiful kick to his ugly face, knocking him down to the ground, while Hasuki runs to check up on him. Later, when Persia was in her locker room thinking whether his father is still finding milk, when she hears Inu's voice from outside the window, and she looks out to see him climbing up on the wall. He apologizes for his behavior and tells her that he has researched about love with the help of schoolgirls and shows her a rosary that he bought for her, but the Scott the nerd was also peeping in the locker room and jumps on Inu, and they both fall to the ground. After a while, Inu wakes up in the juicy chicken thighs of best girl Hasuki, who tells him that the Black Dogs have gone to take revenge for him, so he immediately runs outside to make sure Persia is safe and ends up finding her, but she starts running away from him as the entire Black Dog clan was behind him. Suddenly, he gets attacked but dodges to see Scott and his gang ready to take on the fight, while the Black Dogs provoke them, ending in another massive brawl where they beat each other, and Scott, alongside some other guys, starts beating the crap out of Inu as well. After taking some beating, he gets up but accidentally breaks the pendant that he got for her and gets super pissed before walking towards a statue and rips it out before helicoptering the shit out of everyone in the area, including his own gang, while tears roll down his face. Later that night, he is punished to pluck grass where he gets pissed and was about to throw the pendant in water when Persia stops him and tells him to row the boat for her. This makes Shiro happy, and while he thinks about his future with her, Persia suddenly tries to grab his junk. She grabs the piece of junk from his pocket and feels bad about it, so she tells Inu to shut his eyes, and when he opens it, he finds that she put her own locket around his neck as a gift. This makes him extremely happy. As Persia starts rowing back, he ends up falling out into the water and Persia leaves him there so he can get a workout. The next morning, Inu waits near the stairs waiting for Persia, who comes out dressed as a guy, and they start walking towards the town. Inu remembers how they had to hide and talk inside of a church, and he had to use his special emotional blackmail technique, and only then did she agree to disguise herself. While walking outside, Inu gets called by a bunch of guys who immediately get flattered by the trap, and soon they get surrounded by people. Somehow they go inside the town, but the group is still following them to get a piece of that trap, and when Inu tries to scare them off, they end up beating him up. They keep following while they eat and walk, so Inu ends up dragging her into a haunted house where she gets scared and punches him before running out. Inu tries to follow her but can't find her and thinks that she found the date boring and left. While he was brooding near the sea, the three thugs decide to get payback and kick Inu into the water before their leader kicks his face again and again. Suddenly, Persia arrives from behind and tells them to leave Inu alone, and as soon as the leader tries to punch her, she dodges and slams him to the ground. Later in the evening, they go up to the clock tower where she thanks him for the date when suddenly Scott the simp arrives, so Inu starts headbutting to pretend that they are fighting and gets a punch in return. Some days have passed and Inu meets up with Persia once again and tells her that he wants to celebrate their 1-month anniversary, but she laughs at him. He starts outing and she ends up agreeing. While they were shaking hands, Hasuki arrives alongside Scott and immediately starts fighting amongst each other when she tells them to stop and informs them that Princess Char has arrived in the school again. Meanwhile, Char gets out of her car and walks out to receive massive fanfare as everyone treats her as a celebrity. She walks up to Scott and asks him to tell a joke, but bitch slaps him because the joke was boring. Suddenly, Persia arrives from behind and greets her, which results in Char pulling her hair just a little bit before claiming to be joking. She then turns towards the black dogs and demands Inu to welcome her, but he is sitting like a total boss and tells her that she doesn't own him. Char tells him that she owned his mom last night, which pisses him off, and he rushes in for an attack but stops when Char tells her that she knows about him and Persia. Inu tries to feign ignorance, but Persia even produces a photo of them together, and he ends up falling over. Char bends down and grabs his tie and says that she will keep his secret if he becomes her dog. She then orders him to massage her shoulders, which he does while Persia looks at him in disgust, but Hasuki starts slapping him to wake him up as his gang members seem to be losing respect. Later that day, Char corners him and tells him that whenever she blows the whistle, he has to come to her immediately, otherwise she will reveal his secret. Inu immediately goes down to his knees and begs her not to do that, as it will make them lose their position and Persia would not be able to achieve her dream that way. After that, he sits on a bench completely depressed when Persia asks him why he is spending so much time with Char and whether he likes girls with a flat personality. Inu denies anything but hears the whistle and is forced to run away. Back at the campus, Char sits on him and makes him take her to the dorm while everyone watches, and when he stops, she simply shows him the picture and he immediately runs away. His gang members are starting to think that he is a traitor, but he can't do anything about it. He goes to meet the Persia again, but is called by Char once more to hunt her a deer while poor Persia waits. He finally arrives with deers inside his body, which scares Persia, but he says that he is fine. Before he can talk to her, the whistle sounds again and he becomes sad, but Parisa tells him to stay strong and says that she wants to spend the anniversary with him. He returns back to her dorm where all the white cats watch him, but Inu decides to act submissive and find a weak point in her to use against them. He finally returns back to his dorm, but his gang members throw his stuff out and tell him that they can't stay with a servant of the White Cats, and the only reason why they are not beating him is because Hazuki defended him. After that, they leave while Inu decides to power on through this. The next day, he does what all you can only hope to do and then feeds Char and gets beaten up by some goons for her. This makes him mad, but he remembers to stay calm and find a weakness, which is impossible as she is extremely smart and physically talented, plus all the teachers like her as well. She makes him take her to dinner, but suddenly stops and tells him to turn around with a troubled expression, and when he asks why, she simply kicks him. The next day, Inu finds Persia and asks her about Char, and she replies that they used to be childhood friends, but ever since she came back, she is cold to her. Before he can reply, the whistle sounds again, and he is forced to run away. On the day of the anniversary, he enters Char's room and searches for the picture to steal it, but Char arrives in the room and tells him that she knows he is here. She tries to look for him around the room when suddenly he appears from a hidden mirror, shocking Char to the core. He explains that while trying to hide, he accidentally opened the door and hid inside there, where he found a huge amount of Persia pictures all over the wall. He claims that she is in love with her, but she refuses and acts calm, but he starts blackmailing her immediately, and she starts kicking him again and again before pushing him back and saying that she has loved Persia since childhood and tells him not to take her away. Stubbornly, Persia starts knocking the door, scaring them both, and Char falls to her knees thinking it's all over, but he tells her to buy time, so she blocks the door and doesn't let Persia in and starts acting weird, but Persia forces her way in, but surprisingly the room is completely clean. Persia starts getting ready to meet Inu for the anniversary, while they also have a heart-to-heart conversation where they both make up and become friends again. After she leaves, Char opens the secret door and asks Inu why he helped her, and he replies that he knows the pain of loving someone, and even they end up becoming friends at the end. Later that night, Inu goes near the lake to meet Persia, where she tells him that she likes him, and Inu starts crying like a beta male once again, while Char watches from the bushes. Some days pass, and the final exams arrive, so Inu calls Persia in disguise and hypes everyone up for the start of study camp once again, where they study for 72 hours straight without any breaks till they fall down. Persia thinks it is stupid, but Inu tells her that this is very effective. Inu and the thug with the earrings start butting their heads once again while the others cheer them on. But suddenly Hasuki arrives dressed like the English teacher that everyone has a crush on. Everyone immediately gets alert and ready, surprising Persia, who asks about it and gets it booked to her head. Hasuki tells her not to talk without permission, while Inu tells her that during the exams Hasuki wears her glasses and transforms into a total bombshell teacher. Hasuki organizes a practice test and everyone sits down while Inu thinks about impressing Persia but ends up sleeping immediately. He is woken up violently by Hasuki, who puts clips on his eyes so he doesn't sleep, while Maru the thug uses his phone to watch TikTok, but when Persia tells him that it's pretty sad to cheat, he breaks up his phone in half, telling his underling that he hates them anyways. Hasuki puts a stop to everything and starts teaching them, while Inu gets serious, as well as he doesn't want to fail and get kicked out. Later that evening, Persia returns back to her dorm through the manhole, while the bombshell Hasuki runs up to Inu. Anon thanks him for studying so well and goes away right before Char grapples Inu from behind and kicks him down for making Persia sneak in his dorm. She asks why is he messing around with Hasuki if he likes Persia, but he replies that they are just friends. She asks him why he is keeping it a secret then and runs off into the manhole, leaving Inu confused whether he should tell Hasuki or not. Back inside the dorm, Hasuki sits down and creates even more quizzes, while Maru asks her whether she likes Inu, and she immediately gets embarrassed but admits that she likes him as he was the only friend that she had when they were young. Maru calls her a simp and walks out, while Inu, who was listening to all this, enters the room, shocking her. He asks why he does so much for him, and she gets embarrassed before confessing her love. Inu decides that he can't keep Persia a secret and tells her to listen carefully. He takes out the locket Persia gave him and confesses that he is dating Persia. At first, Hasuki thinks this is a joke, but Inu confirms the truth, which makes her shout in anger so everyone knows about them, but Inu stops him. He tries to reason with her, but she lays out a mat and shows him the board, which says you can't fall in love with a white cat. While Inu tries to calm her down, she grabs a sword and gets ready to unfriend Inu's head from his body while he tells her to chill out. She puts on her glasses, which makes Inu run away while she chases. He reaches the first floor where he finds Maru's cronies, but he simply jumps out the window while Hasuki tries to attack, but slashes all the clothes of the others instead. Maru walks out of his room to see his two friends standing, so he simply goes back to sleep as he doesn't swing that way. Meanwhile, even Persia hears the commotion and looks outside to find Inu being chased by Hasuki. He climbs up a tree and hides when Persia finds him, and he tells her about what just happened. Before she could say anything, Hasuki puts a sword on Inu before slashing, but he jumps forward. She gets even more pissed and attacks them, but they jump back while she decides to deal with Persia first, but thankfully Char blocks the hit while Inu grabs her from behind. Char tells Persia that she already knows about their relationship and wanted to keep her safe, but now that her life was in danger, she shows her boot knife and gets ready to kill Inu while he runs away with Persia. They end up reaching the end of a cliff where Persia reminds him that even though they know how to fight, Inu decides to face them while Hasuki and Char arrive. Hasuki gets ready with her sword and attacks him head-on while he faces her and takes the hit on his head and starts bleeding as he realizes the sword was a fake all along. I have no idea how she cut the clothes of these two queens. Hasuki finally lets her feelings out when Persia slips and falls while Inu jumps after her, followed by the others. He realizes that he can't swim, but too late as he starts drowning. He is saved by Hasuki and immediately looks around to find Persia saved by Char on the other side. Hasuki realizes how much he cares for Persia and simply starts crying as there is nothing else she could do. The next morning, Inu carefully walks outside but realizes that Hazuki didn't tell anyone, but he still feels scared to face her when she arrives behind him with a megaphone and tells him to move his ass and get studying. Some days pass away and the sports competition is near, but Inu corners Persia in a storeroom and asks her to make her a lunchbox and feed him with her hand, which she agrees to. The next day, she keeps trying to make food in the dorm kitchen but seems to be failing at everything as the cook tries to help her, but the oil catches fire and the oven starts sparking. Persia ends up losing hope and meets Inu in a barn with a basket of extremely delicious-looking food as Inu gets excited as she wants to feed it to him. Inu opens his mouth, but Char ends up putting her feet in his mouth, which I will count as a win. She doesn't want Persia to feed him, so she steals the basket and runs up a tree, but gets stuck as she tries to jump off. The basket flies off and lands on top of Scott, who is preparing for the competition. Persia runs up to him as he opens the basket to see home-cooked food, which he thinks Persia made for him. He gets extremely happy and takes her hand so that they can eat it together, but Inu drop kicks him in the face, putting him on the ground. Scott gets up once again, thinking that Inu wants to waste Persia's food, and before she could intervene, Scott takes out his sword while Inu calls him a goldfish turd. Persia freaks out while Char is enjoying as Scott attacks, but Inu dodges before punching him, but Scott dodges as well. Inu grabs his head and knees him in the stomach, calling him a simp, which angers him as he hits Inu back into a tree and starts telling his backstory, but Inu reminds him that he is not a main character and rips a tree out of the ground and bashes it on Scott as the basket goes flying again, and he follows the basket into a farm and tries to save it, but hits into the fence as the pigs eat everything out of the box. By the time he gets the pigs off, everything is gone, and he drops down on his knees while Scott cries beneath the tree, but Char takes him by his collar back to the dorm, leaving Persia and Inu alone. He seems to be very down, so Persia tells him that the food was made by the kitchen maid, which totally shocks Inu as he realizes that he has been fighting over the kitchen maid all along. Persia apologizes as her cooking is bad, but takes out a small pack of burnt cookies and gives it to him as it was made by her. Inu immediately takes up the cookies as Persia warns him that they are burnt, but he doesn't care and takes a bite and almost chokes, but keeps eating and choking to make Persia happy. Persia stops him and tells him that she knows the cookies are bad, and Inu starts laughing as he realizes she is not as perfect as she tries to be and tells her that he likes her even more now. She promises that next time she will make an exquisite food basket for him, and they happily go back to their dorms while Char uses Scott as her pig. The next day, Inu sits as his entire class practices for the sports festival on an extremely hot day, but they are kept moving by the hopes that the girls will wipe off their sweat and feed them with their own hands. Inu doesn't seem to be interested as Maru comes with his cronies and tells him that he doesn't want to practice, but he can't let the white cat win, and they start planning how they can use a banana pedal or sleeping pills to cheat and win. Maru looks at Inu and tells him not to take part as Inu bites his fingers, and they start fighting again. Meanwhile, Haski seems to be down, but the girls around him encourage him to ask Inu for a dance after the party, and they tell Inu about it. Inu thinks of the dance as some fun dance, so he agrees and Hasuku walks away happily. After that, Inu simply lays down on the bridge hating on the sports festival when he hears Scott and his gang practicing while calling Black Dogs pathetic losers as Scott thinks about dancing with Persia at the party, but Inu kicks him on the head and they start fighting again. Scott makes fun of him for being bad at sports, which results in Inu trying to punch him, but an orange-haired girl stops it with one hand. The girl introduces herself as Somali and gets happy that she stopped such a strong punch while a guy named Abi walks up, making all the girls humid. He starts bragging about how cool he is and how many girls like him, while Somali talks about something else at the same time, and they start arguing. Abi walks up to Persia and tells her that he would like to take her to a dance during the party as his date, while Scott and Inu seethe with anger. Persia ends up declining his offer as she doesn't like studs like him. He gets surprised but turns around to see Scott and Inu changing into demons, which angers Somali as she kicks while Inu goes for a punch, but they are stopped by Persia, who says that they will sort everything in the competition. Inu turns to go back when Abi stops him and asks Inu whether he is in love, which scares him, but turns out Abi thinks Inu likes him, but he tells Abi that he is not a sword swallower like him. Somali comes and tells him to leave, but Abi refuses and gets a kick to the face while Persia looks hopelessly as they finally leave. During the evening, when everyone was excited for the festival, Inu brooded in the balcony when an arrow with a note comes and he learns that Persia has invited him to practice the three-legged race with him. This short-circuits his brain as he eats, bathes, and sleeps quickly before arriving in the grounds the next morning. Persia starts tying him up, which is not vanilla at all, but Inu ends up poking his eyes out so his eyes don't sway where they shouldn't. After that, they try to run, but their height difference is too much, so Persia adjusts his hands, which leads him to get an explosive nosebleed. They finally start running, and it turns out that they were a good team, and after the run, Persia reminds him of his last year's pathetic performance when he ended up taking a false start by mistake and finished the race in first position, but had to do it again, as it was considered unfair. He was too tired the next time and lost the match, which made the White Cats winners. Inu realizes that she did all this to make him more confident, and to put the cherry on top, she tells him that whoever wins can command the other to do whatever they want for a whole day, and this gets Inu truly fired up as his incel brain starts thinking of the endless possibilities. He enters the practice again and is faster than ever, claiming to be the representative for the 100-meter dash, making Hazuki happy. The next day, the festival begins and everyone gets ready for a refreshing day of competition. The ceremony begins with the housemaster of the Black Dogs and the White Cats giving the students a greeting where they start fighting, and during that time, Hazuki ends up running into Emily, who tries to charm her, but Inu blocks him with a kick, telling him to stay away from her, while Somali bashes his head in with a kick. Before they can fight, Persia walks up and claims that they will be the winners this time, which fires up Inu, as well as they all get ready for the first game. It turns out to be tug of war where they all take positions, but as soon as the bell rings, the Black Dogs easily swipe the enemy team off their feet and start winning, while Scott gets worried, but Abby tells him that Somali can handle it, and handle it she does. She stops the Black Dogs' advances alone and starts pulling them back instead, which shocks the entire team, but Abby ends up praising her, which makes her lose the concentration, and they lose the match. The next game is an obstacle course where Maru and Char are opponents. As soon as the race starts, Maru takes an explosive start and runs up the first obstacle and throws sharp spikes behind him so Char can't follow, but he turns around to see her sipping tea sitting atop a chair while her cronies carry her through the spikes. He runs to the referee to talk about it, but the ref is already bribed and does nothing as Char wins the match. After a couple of more games like the three-legged race and balloon pops, finally the 100-meter dash comes where Persia wins the women division and Inu wins the men division. The announcer announces a 1-hour break before the final match as Inu and Persia sit together, where she tells Inu that her mom is sitting in the stands so she will not lose today, no matter what, while Inu wants to try his luck with her mom as well. They both return as the next cheerleading competition starts, which was a draw. The next game is a weird Japanese pole game where they have to make an erect pole flaccid. While the boys' team fights, Persia runs through the girls' division and grabs the pole, pushing it down, but it wasn't enough. Thankfully, Somali arrives from behind and helps her push the pole down, but while Persia tries to thank her, Somali looks at her angrily and kicks her. The pole falls down and Persia's team is victorious, while in the boys' division it's a draw. The White Cats are still winning on the scoreboard while Persia seems to be hurt, but gets up and tells Char not to worry. The next game is a relay race where Scott and Inu start the race while Hazuki tells Persia that she won't lose while Peria looks in pain. The boys pass the rod to the girls, who immediately start running at full pace, and Persia manages to run ahead of Hazuki, but Inu notices that she seems to be in pain and suddenly she falls over to the ground. Hazuki stops the race while Inu tries to run up to her but is stopped by Char, who tells Inu that he will create a bigger problem this way. Scott tries to get a stretcher, but Persia refuses while Abi comes and starts calling her weak and pathetic, while his underlings start saying that she doesn't even belong in the kitchen as she doesn't know how to cook. Everyone in the crowd start being a misogynist, but Inu is a feminist and shuts them all up with a punch. Char talks to Abi and threatens him, but he is unfazed and tells her to piss off. Persia is admitted in the infirmary while Inu feels bad about not being by her side, but Char tells him that this wasn't an accident and that she saw Somali hit Persia on her legs during the match, and she only does what Abi tells her to do. According to her, Abi is trying to make Persia look weak so he can become the leader of the White Cats instead. Inu gets extremely mad at this, and while Persia cries inside, he screams at her to wipe her tears and come and watch the next game as he finally goes outside to meet him in the field, ready to mop the floor with him. The next game is cavalry battle and everyone gets ready for the match while Maru tells Inu to get into the position of the horse as decided, but looking Abi, Inu climbs on top of Maru and tells him to let him beat the crap out of Abi, but Maru isn't ready to comply, and even after the match starts, he doesn't move from his position, telling Inu to get down immediately. Meanwhile, Hazuki goes on to eliminate several enemy teams by stealing the ribbons off their arm when finally Scott tries to steal her armband, but she slaps his hands away before calling police on him for harassment. Abi watches her from distance and decides that the time is correct as one of the girls under Hazuki falls down, and Abi immediately takes the armband, eliminating her from the match, and as Hazuki looks around, she finds out that almost all of the Black Dogs are falling down one by one out of tiredness, and Maru's cronies simply end up falling to the ground to sleep, while Maru is still struggling with Inu. Abi reveals that he drugged all of them, but Maru, Inu, and a couple others are still in the game. Inu pleads with him to move, but Maru refuses to do anything and is willing to lose when suddenly Persia comes dressed as a guy and cheers for them, which immediately fires Maru up as he wants a piece of that trap, and as soon as Scott tries to attack them, they immediately take his armband. Maru tells him to play well as Inu tells him to stop talking, while Hasuki realizes that both of them are at the top of the class in terms of strength, so if they work together, no one can defeat them. It finally becomes a one-on-one against Abi and his group as he brags about having the strongest team members with him, but suddenly, the two guys fall over as Maru's cronies use a taser on them. Abi tries calling the ref, but Maru informs him that he knows that Abi put sleeping pills in the water as he was able to taste it, and they corner the water boy before bullying him into revealing the secret. Maru looks at him happily while Somala gets mad and tries to kick him, but Inu stops her by grabbing her leg and tells him to stop his cheap tricks, which makes Abi mad as he remembers who he used to be, a fatty, and was always bullied for it alongside anyone who wasn't from the most elite families. He punches Inu, but it doesn't affect him as he grabs Abi by the face and throws him into the air as he falls amongst the crowd. Everyone starts cheering as the announcer was about to call it a win when Inu stops them and claims that they still haven't defeated the leader of the White Cats, and unless they defeat Persia, it can't be a win. Persia gets emotional about this and takes off his guise before asking Char for help, and by the time the sun sets, they both get ready to face each other off in one final battle. The announcer announces the overtime while Persia and Inu both get ready for the final face-off despite the injury on her feet. The match begins and Inu smacks her hand, which she defends before grabbing his arm and headbutting him. They both start fist fighting as if they are in a UFC match before her leg starts paining. She powers through and blocks another attack before engaging in a fist fight, once again pushing Inu to his limits while the audience starts shouting at her support. Inu decides to go in for one final attack, but he misses her arm and ends up grabbing a handful of some juicy chicken breast, which shocks everyone while Inu simply bleeds and falls over to the ground in a puddle of his own blood. Everyone rejoices as Persia is crowned the winner and made the MVP, but everyone knows the true winner is Inu, who is cornered by the Black Dogs, who tell him that he is no longer fit to be their leader after that scandalous act and will be punished as a war criminal. Back at the party, Scott looks for Persia in order to dance with her, but Char finds him and takes him away to shave him completely because he lost his match. Meanwhile, Inu is made to sit in front of a fountain where he thinks about how Black Dogs threw him out and Persia gave him the cold shoulder when Persia arrives dressed beautifully and asks Inu for a dance. He asks whether she can dance with that leg, and after that, he starts dancing his weird dance while Persia thinks about how he fought for her bravely. She thanks him, and they continue with their weird dance into the night. A month has passed since the festival, and the prefects of both the factions have a meeting where the Black Dogs prefect tells the others to enforce stricter dorm checking after Abi's sleeping pills incident, which put the lives of several people at risk, but the White Cat prefect makes fun of him, which makes him mad, and he almost breaks the table before leaving the discussion. Back at the dorm, Hasuki takes care of his sick Inu as he has been doing all of the work in the class to get his popularity back, which ended up making him sick. And while Hasuki took care of him, two of her classmates took her away for some urgent matter, while Inu dreamt about how he used to get sick as a child when he is woken up by Persia in disguise. At first he thinks it's all a dream, but when she touches him, he realizes that it's all real and starts acting tough again, saying that he is completely fine. She tells him to shut up and puts a thermometer in his mouth before sitting down to nurse him back to health. She looks around in his room, which is totally trashy, while Inu tells her that after the festival he was sent to the storage room and Hasuki was made the leader instead. Persia decides to clean up a little and ends up finding a magazine for women's clothing, which immediately makes Inu fluster as he is not a crossdresser and remembers that one of Maru's cronies brought it for him as a get-well-soon gift. Persia looks back at him thinking that his lover is a femboy, but Inu denies it, and when Persia doesn't seem to believe him, he becomes sand and goes to meet Thanos. Persia decides to let it slide and tries to go out while Inu is dead in his bed. She roams around the Black Dogs' dorms, getting amazed by all the things they have before finding her way through the dining hall and gets some tea and an apple for Inu. While going back to his room, she ends up running into Maru, who is standing in the corridor, and asks her where she was going. She replies that she is helping Inu, and Maru immediately eats the apple, saying Inu doesn't deserve one. She doesn't say anything while Maru asks her about her favorite My Little Pony character, but Persia throws water at him and runs away as she hates furries. She runs away and ends up going into a room with a lot of steam and stumbles into the water, only to realize it was a woman's bath, and the girls kick her out thinking she was a boy. She finally returns back to Inu's room wet and crying, and he gives her his extra clothes, which she changes into while Inu turns away from her, but still gets his eyes poked to bits. After a while, he sleeps again, dreaming about his mom, and finally wakes up to see Persia singing him a lullaby. He finds out that he doesn't have a fever anymore and touches his forehead once again, making him blush. A couple days pass by and another festival is around the corner, so Inu and Persia meet in a park secretly, and he asks her whether she would want to go with him to the festival. She tells him about her encounter with Maru and thinks it's not a good idea to use that disguise, but tells him that she will make time to slip away and watch the fireworks together with him. This makes him happy as she disappears, and he starts celebrating when a loli literally falls from the tree and catches her. He asks what the hell is she doing while she tells him to put her down. He makes fun of her non-existent personality, which makes her angry, and as he puts her down, she bites his arm like a dog and doesn't let go while another loli drops from the sky on top of Inu, hurting his head. The lolis tell him that they are his seniors, and they were trying to save a cat from the tree and ended up falling down. Hasuki ends up arriving at the location while Inu tells her that these lolis were fighting with him. Hasuki has a closer look and immediately realizes his fault and starts apologizing while telling him to bow down as these lolis are prefects as well and introduces them as Kako and Teri. She tells him that messing with them will result in a lot of problems for him. Kako asks if he is scared, but Inu has the brain capacity of a park bench and tells them he isn't scared and calls them Hasbulla's cousins. The lolis tell him that they have a lot of authority and create trouble for him before asking who he was talking to beneath the bench. This shocks him as he worries whether they saw him talk to Persia, but decides to tell them that he was talking to his aunt friends and telling them about the festival. Everyone starts pitying him while Hasuki offers to get him new friends, but he tells them to mind their own business and walks off. By the evening, he returns back to his room and is surprised to see both the lolis messing around and reading his manga. He tells them to get out, and Teri produces the locket that Persia gave him and asks about it. Inu immediately pushes her down and gets the locket back while Kako tells him to let her sister go. He immediately runs out to lock them in and hammers the planks, but they escape and he is forced to run away. They try to find him, but he escapes, so they decide to go to the festival to search for him. They walk through the festival while Kako tells Territ that they don't have the time to enjoy it and finally spot Inu, walking through happily as he dreams about seeing the fireworks with Persia. They stop him and ask why he is so happy, but he simply runs away as they chase after him. Meanwhile, everyone is having fun at the festival and Scott creates a human pyramid for Persia to watch the fireworks, but is hogged by Char as usual, while Persia walks away to find Inu and an annoyed Maru walks away, as well as he wanted to see whether the trap was here. Inside the forest, Persia walks around aimlessly when she is found by Inu inside the bushes, who tells her to hide with him while the lolis look for him. They end up hanging on a cow to escape their vision and run deeper into the forest and do all sorts of stunts simply to escape the watchful eyes of the prefects. They end up hiding inside a barrel while the lolis look for him, and Inu's thoughts run wild as the good and the bad angel both beat up his logical answer angel. Everyone seems to be having fun as they enjoy the festival when suddenly a brawl breaks out between two guys, which is interrupted by the lolis, but the guys believe in equality and attack the girls while they dodge with surprising speed as Teri uses a net to catch the white cat guy, while Kako dodges the Baldi's attacks before blowing some crack into his face and knocking them both out. Inu watches them both as they are unable to enjoy the festival and decides to help them by shooting one of them in the face like a proud American and challenging them to a competition. They agree and basically cheat in the shooting as well as the hammer games before getting a brain freeze with the ice cream, and then both of them shove pies up his ass, winning that game as well. The girls seem to enjoy being normal for once and want to play more, but Inu has to go, making them sad, but he tells them to enjoy the festival and call him if they want to play. They happily tell him to be ready for the next match soon and run away together while Inu realizes that he is late for the fireworks and starts running but fails to reach Persia as colorful blasts are seen in the sky by the entire town and the school. Inu stands there horrified, and after the festival is over he finds her in the barrel where he left her and she is mad. She ends up forgiving him as she saw and helped the girls, and they enjoy some fireworks of their own together, finally alone. A couple of months have passed as at night Char marks Persia's birthday on the calendar, which is arriving in a week, thinking happily about the big party she's going to throw for her, while Persia walks back from the bath and asks why she is so happy. Char replies that they are going to have a lot of fun at her party, but Persia tells her that this year she wants to spend it with Inu, which totally shocks and angers Char as she doesn't like Inu. Back at the Black Dog dorm, Inu is also marking Persia's birthday, which is due in a week, and thinks about what present he should get when suddenly Kako starts looking at what he is doing, which results in him poking the pen in her face, making her shout out in pain. She shouts at him while he tells her to get out and asks how she got in and starts looking for the other loli, while Kako tells him that she has been beneath his bed since last night, shocking Inu. Kako tells him that Teri likes to follow people she is interested in and hides around them, which basically means she is a stalker. Kako tells him that she has to go out to shop for the student council, but she is busy so wants Inu to do it, and he is more than happy to agree as he can find a gift for her dear Persia as well. He arrives at the market and starts looking around for things that Persia might like when he ends up picking a cat toy at the same time as Char, who was also out to get a gift for Persia. They end up fighting over the soft toy, which rips into two pieces, horrifying the owner, while both Inu and Char get angry at each other for ruining the gift, but Char seems more pissed off than usual, which scares him, but he pretends like he doesn't care, and just before the fight could be escalated, a police officer tries to stop them, but after spotting Princess Char, his attitude immediately changes and he asks whether she has bodyguards around. When she replies that she is alone here, he starts telling her that there might be people who can hurt her and cannot allow that, so she should return back to the school as soon as possible. But Char decides to crush her own ego and tells the officer that she is here with Inu, the strongest member of their school, who will protect her, and takes him inside the shop. She changes his clothes and dyes his hair yellow before coming out and showing the officer that they belong to the same faction, and even though the officer doesn't believe it, she simply walks away. Inu corners her in an alley and tells her that no one is going to believe this disguise and that he isn't interested in roaming around with her, and shows how good he can spit, gives her a thumbs down before walking. It turns out that Char is into spit play and tells Inu that she knows he is here to buy Persia a present and she could help him find the perfect one for her if he agrees to become his escort. But even though her point is strong, Inu refuses as he wants to pick a gift himself, but Char makes him imagine what will happen if his gift isn't liked by Persia, as his muscle brain can only buy things like an action figure, which will disappoint Persia, who wants actual action. Inu falls to the ground and agrees to be her escort, and they start wandering through the streets before she pulls him into an undergarments shop, which makes him super uncomfortable, and she starts suggesting him to buy something from here which will suit on Persia. And he likes a pair of shorts with a bear design, which Char hates at first but imagines it on Persia and starts liking it. They start going through cloth after cloth, thinking creepily about her, which gives her chills back at the school where her simp is present to heal her. Back at the shop, Char and Inu have a small fight over creative differences where they argue a lot, and while the clouds start forming, they move out of the shop into the streets again. Char starts making fun of him for not knowing what his girlfriend wants and suggests that they should break up as he is clam jamming her anyways. He yells at her to stop saying stupid things when it starts raining, and they get stuck out in the open. Meanwhile, back at the school, both the loli thank the god that they sent Inu out to do their errands instead of going themselves, while thinking about the silver locket that he had, which is usually worn by the white cats. Suddenly, they are approached by the president of the council himself, who asks what they are talking about while they think whether to tell him anything or not. Back in the town, Char and Inu are stuck beneath a shed due to the rain, while a totally wet Char tries to wring her jacket dry, but Inu takes it from her, thinking that she is stupid to do it so lightly, and uses all his strength to create a waterfall out of it, while Char shouts at him to stop as he will tear the jacket, and he hands her the tattered jacket back, which is completely ruined, but he tells her to wear it before she catches cold. She tries to tease him by pushing him in a corner, and tells him to leave Persia for her, but Inu is not a cheater, and flicks her on the head, pushing her away from him. Char kicks him back and looks up to see the sky clearing up, and tells Inu that he is free of his escort duty and that she will come some other day to look for a present. She walks around in the city and spots a mother slapping her boy on the head, which reminds him of how much of a masochist she is, and growing up a princess, no one would satisfy this part of her until Persia came into her life, who would fulfill her degradation kink, and now Inu did it. While she walks through a dark alleyway thinking about this, she is suddenly grabbed by a man from behind as he puts a cloth on her face while another man talks shit to her. Char is unfazed and simply kicks the man in the face, knocking him down to the ground and shocking the other man when Inu comes walking in the alleyway. The man starts claiming that Char was beating them up for no reason, and even though it aligns with her character, Inu simply bashes his head in the wall, knocking him down while telling him that he is her escort for the day, hoping the roles will be reversed at night. Char gets angry as she didn't get to show how she is an empowered woman and starts whining about toxic masculinity, but Inu is a top G and tells her to shut up or he will take away her voting rights. Char starts laughing at this and tells him that she thinks he will become a good successor to Baldi Tate, and keeps laughing like an absolute maniac. Later in the evening, while the sun was setting, Char reveals that recently Persia came up to her with a request to lie to the housekeeper so that she could stay out late with Inu during her birthday, which shocks Char as Persia doesn't like breaking rules. Inu gets so happy at this that wedding bells start ringing in his brain, but she puts a stop to it, saying that she will keep trying to win Persia over, and starts crying like the weak woman she is. Inu thinks for a while and tries to console her, but she shuts him up and tells him that he is a loser, making him sad. She then tells him to search for Persia's gift himself before giving him a paper bag, which she says is a reward for being a loyal escort during the day, and walks off into the city. Inu opens the bag to find a weird-looking cloth that he doesn't know how to unhook. He takes it and runs back to his dorm when an arrow with a note is shot towards him. He opens it to find a note by Persia, telling him to come to the library so that they can talk. He immediately goes over to the library where he is able to talk through the bookshelf, and Persia ends up inviting him to celebrate her birthday together. Inu gets shocked completely but tries to act cool even though he is blown out of his mind at this opportunity. Persia thanks him as she was afraid he is going to deny, which shocks Inu as he doesn't know what she thinks about him at this point. She tells him not to come into her dorm like every single year when they attack her party and throw cake at her face, which starts a brawl and the party gets cancelled. Inu immediately apologizes and says that this year it would be different this time and ends up asking her what she wants as a gift. She thinks about it for a while before telling him that he can choose the gift himself. Meanwhile, Char is sitting on her throne petting her kitty while Scott looks for Persia. She decides to mess with him just for fun and makes him wear an apron and make pancakes for her. Back at the dorm, Inu is beyond happy as he frolics around like a schoolgirl thinking about Persia's birthday when he spots Hasuki in front of his room. He shocks her from behind, but suddenly a harsh voice calls his name and he looks inside to see the president of the student council standing alongside Teary and Kakyo inside his room and asks him what he was doing so late outside. Inu is completely stunned to see the president Eru of the student council, who is also Inu's older brother. He takes out the locket that Persia gave him and asks him why the hell does he have this in his room, as it is supposed to be a thing that the White Cats are known for. Inu is totally out of words and doesn't know how to explain this when Hasuki steps in and claims that she asked Inu to get her something shiny, and because he has the IQ of a brick wall, he ended up getting her this. Inu gets relieved while thinking how amazing Hasuki is to take the fall on this, but then Eru produces a weird-looking hat and asks where did he get that from. Inu has no idea what to tell his brother, who has never smelled a woman before, so he looks at Hasuki, but Yushi is mad at him and isn't taking his side. Eru looks at him and asks him whether he is messing around with any girls from the White Cat faction, as it is totally unacceptable, and he can't let the shame come to the family name. Hasuki tries to defend Inu when things heat up, but Eru asks whether she has anything to do and knows anything about this, as she will be punished equally, but Inu stops his brother and says she has nothing to do with it. Eru gets pissed and picks Inu up from his throat and tells him that he is already always covering for him, and this can't go any longer. Surprisingly, Terry hangs on to Inu even after Eru tells him to let go, and even Kacho starts hitting him and tells him that he can't do this in the school. Eru finally lets him go and informs him that for the next week he will be monitoring him closely, and if he finds anything suspicious, Inu will be in a world of trouble. Eru goes away while Inu sits in disbelief, as Persia wanted to celebrate her birthday together, which is only a couple of days later. The next day back at the White Cat dorm, Persia spends her morning alongside the cook trying to bake cookies and finally takes out a batch that looks nice. The cook is still worried for her safety when she tries to taste it, but after tasting she doesn't die, so even the cook tries it and compliments her, as these are one of the best cookies she has had. Persia thanks the cook from her heart for teaching her, but the cook tells her that she was the one who put all the effort and tried for countless hours, sacrificing her social life totally. After that, Char tastes the cookies and loves it, while Scott is out of the world after getting the leftover cookies. Char asks whether this new hobby is because of Inu, and Persia blushes before saying that she wants to be a good cook for her. Before she can talk any further, they notice Inu walking alongside Eru and the others through the garden while everyone looks at them in awe. Persia feels that something is different with Inu, as he seems to be scared of something, while Kako asks him whether he doesn't get along with his brother. She claims that she has never seen Eru angry apart from when he is fighting against the White Cats or dishing out punishment. Suddenly, a paper plane hits Eru in the head, and the boys start immediately apologizing, completely scared, as Eru crumples the plane in his hand but ends up making a masterpiece out of it and gives it back to them. The boys thank him and move away, while Kako smiles and says that Eru is very kind behind his hard shell. Inu doesn't agree with this and says that he has never felt any kindness from him, and ever since he was young, Eru enjoyed disciplining him with a paddle, which might be for reasons other than what Inu is thinking. After that, Eru starts being with Inu at all times, hitting him when he got a problem wrong, watching him eat, and even when he is on the toilet, which confirms my suspicion about him. A couple days later, Eru walks with Inu and they pass by Persia, and even though Inu stops to look behind, he decides to not risk it and continues walking. Finally, it's the day before Persia's birthday, but Eru takes Inu into the training hall to practice kendo with him, while Scott arranges all the boys to start the preparation for Persia's birthday. Inside the hall, Hasuki watches Inu get beaten to a pulp again and again, while Eru forces him to get up and fight. Even Maru and his cronies notice that something is different with Inu, while Hasuki feels bad for him and helps him walk back and tells him that she is really surprised as how obedient he is right now, as she thought he will definitely create a problem, but Inu replies that he is doing all this just to get his brother to lower his guard, as he still plans on meeting Persia no matter what. Hasuki advised against it as he will be expelled if caught, but Inu promises that she will face no trouble. Hasuki simply hugs him and says she doesn't want him to get kicked out of the school, but Inu promises that it won't happen before going off to wash his face. By the time night falls, Inu sneaks out of his dorm and starts running towards the fountain where he has promised to meet Persia. He believes that his brother will be asleep by this time, and the patrol doesn't walk this area till an hour later, so he will have enough time to quickly celebrate and head back without anyone knowing. But when he exits the gate, he hears his brother's voice stopping him, and he turns around to see him standing by the gate. He explains that he knew something was up, as even though he pretended to be subservient, his eyes showed that he didn't care at all. He tells Inu to simply return back to the dorm, but he gathers his strength and denies it. Eru walks up and tells Inu that he has never won a fight against him and he shouldn't try, but Inu throws a powerful punch, which is easily blocked by Eru before he knees him in the stomach while calling him weak. Inu throws another punch, but Eru dodges it before landing a 3-punch combo on Inu's face, completely knocking him out. He then carries Inu and throws him into the shed before telling him that he will be dealt with later and locking the door, while Inu gets up with pain all over his body. Suddenly, the door opened by Coco and Terry, who tell him that Eru left. Inu smiles because he knew it would happen, as ever since they were kids, Eru has done the same thing, and last night Inu has convinced both the Lolas into helping him fool Eru to get out of the school for 2 hours. But at first Coco refused as it was too dangerous. But Terry ends up agreeing as he wants to see Inu climb this huge wall that is his brother, and while Inu hugs her, even Kako ends up agreeing. Back in the present, Inu thanks them again and walks outside, while Kako tells him to be quick, as if they are caught it will cause a huge trouble, and Inu agrees before running outside towards the fountain, while thinking how he always wanted to celebrate it with her but was never able to because of the war between the two factions, but now he can actually be with her and see her smile. He keeps running but suddenly starts feeling weak after all that beating and falls to the ground into the lap of Persia. He asks what she is doing here, as they were supposed to meet at the fountain, but through a broken voice, she replies that she was here to stop him as he would be expelled if his brother found out, but it's too late now. He asks how she knew about it, and she replies that Hasuki schooled her about how Inu is walking through a thorny path, taking a lot of damage just to be near her, and she can't bear this anymore. Inu tells her that it's all a joke and that he won't be expelled, but Persia knows it's a lie and starts crying while thinking that it's all her fault that he is in such bad shape, and if she wasn't in this relationship, he wouldn't have gotten hurt. Inu tries to console her, but she just hugs him and apologizes for what she's going to do. The next morning, Scott organizes another assembly where he instructs the students not to be late and explains how Persia will descend on the swinging chair through the smoke, and then they will do a marching band before revealing her gift. And when one of the students asks how they will deal with the black dogs and their pie-throwing party, he replies that he will beat them up, when suddenly Inu kicks him to the ground while looking around to find Persia and spots her walking with Char, but she immediately turns away and starts walking in the other direction without acknowledging his presence. He runs after her while she keeps increasing her speed, but he traps her around the corner and becomes Spider-Man to stop her. She tells him to go away as she doesn't want Eru to see him, but she tells him that he is in the class, so now is their chance to celebrate her birthday. To his surprise, she pushes him away and tells him that she doesn't want this relationship and runs away, leaving him on the ground. Hazuki and her friend who were walking around see Inu's seemingly lifeless body on the floor and take him to the nurse's office where he lays on the bed. Hasuki tries to ask him what happened, but he is totally out of his mind and replies that he doesn't want to say or do anything and doesn't even want to live anymore, but Hazuki takes him away with her to skip class and play some games in the game room. They go inside to find the game room completely empty, while Inu asks if it's fine for a smart student like her to miss a class, but she replies that she is fine and decides to play billiards with him. Inu is a total peasant and doesn't know how to play, but Hasuki tries to teach him the basics and hands him the staff to try it out for himself. Inu tries to aim for the ball, but misses and hits another ball, which embarrasses Hasuki, and she takes him to play with the sheep out there. She rubs the sheep all over while Inu tries to chase them as they run away. Hasuki tries to give him some food for the sheep, but they end up mobbing her to the ground, and for the first time in my life, I wanted to be a sheep so bad. By the time evening comes, they chill on top of the clock tower, where while looking outside, Hasuki ends up sleeping and almost falls, but Inu grabs her by the waist, saving her life. This makes Hasuki's heart rate increase by a lot, so she starts hitting her head in the wall to relieve some of the pressure, while Inu spots the caution sign board, and when he looks back at Hasuki, it reminds him of Persia, making him sad again. Back at the White Cat dorm, Persia looks at the locket that Inu gave her while Char arrives from behind and tells her that the party is starting and she needs to go down. She spots the pack of cookies on the desk and asks why she hasn't given it to Inu yet, but Persia lies that she made it for her and not for Inu, But Char isn't easily fooled and asks for the real reason as she tells her that she has been hurting Inu by trying to be in a relationship with him, and she cannot bear that anymore while Char hugs and consoles her. Meanwhile, Inu pretends that he is happy and jumps around thanking Hasuki for making him feel better, but she calls his bluff and tells him that she knows him for quite a long time and can easily figure out when he is lying. Inu looks down while Hasuki starts crying, saying that she hoped she was enough for him, but clearly she is wrong. Inu tries to tell her that it's not true, but Hasuki tells him that she is fine while wiping her tears, as Inu feels even worse now that he made Hasuki cry and starts punching himself silly again and again while Hasuki tries to stop him. They both start laughing afterwards when Char descends from the tree, surprising them, and walks up to Hasuki, slapping her plots and telling her that she should have confessed to Inu earlier, as that way Persia would not have gotten into this mess. Inu asks whether she is fine, and Char replies yes before giving him the pack of cookies. She tells him that Persia made it for him and wanted to give these yesterday but wasn't able to, so Char is giving this now and tells him that she is not going to the party, while leaving Inu with the cookies, who immediately opens it and starts eating, while tears roll down his cheeks. He claims that the cookies are amazing and remembers how shit they were when Persia made it for the first time, that he thought he would die of food poisoning, but she must have practiced day and night just to learn how to make these perfectly only for him. Hasuki realizes that Inu feels better than before, and he strips down his bandages, claiming that he is ready for his master plan, and tells her to get ready for the pie-throwing tradition. Hasuki replies that the classes are already over, and if they go now they might get in trouble with Eru, but Inu tells her that he wants Eru to see all of this. Meanwhile, Persia goes to meet with the president of her student council as she wants advice on something when a guy enters the room and screams that a bunch of black dogs have arrived with pies and are waiting downstairs. Inu stands in the font and calls out Persia, saying that they are here to celebrate her birthday, while Persia runs out of the council room to meet him, but the president stops her. Downstairs, everything's on a standstill as Inu goes over his plan, creating a lot of chaos and then snatching Persia away by force before wishing her happy birthday, after which she will be extremely happy and completely and will definitely give him a big hug. He calls her name again, but Scott appears in front of him with his group carrying pies as well and tells him to back off if he doesn't want pie in his face. Before he could finish his sentence, Hasuki throws a pie in his face, which starts a war as all the guys start cream pieing each other with all of their strength, while Inu walks upstairs as he only wants to crampy Persia. He tells Hasuki to take the command while she worries about him, but gets a pie on her face courtesy of Scott, who is so pathetic that even his own group thinks that he is the lamest person around. Inu can't find Persia, so he looks towards Char for help, but she seems to be extremely angry at him for ruining her party, so he decides to leave her alone and runs into the hallway, and after a while he seems to be lost when Somali jumps behind him, which comes as a shock before he spots Abi, who looks like a certified hobo. Inu asks what happened to him, and Abi replies that after his trickery at the sports festival was exposed, he was kicked out of the dorm and has been living the hobo life, and has thought a lot about what he did during the festival, but tells Inu that he won't forgive him for defeating him. Inu tries to move, but Somali, with her stupid strength, stops him from moving, so Inu tricks her into saying that Abi is getting jealous of the attention she has given him, and Somali, the pea-brain fool, rushes and hugs Abi with all her strength. He runs upstairs but is surrounded by all of the white cat boys who jump at him all at once, but he somehow escapes through the attic hole where the president helps him to hide. Inu is very skeptical of this weirdo and asks why he helped him, but the president simply puts his hands through his pant and asks whether he wants to blow a trumpet and starts laughing like a maniac. Inu decides to get away from this creep and runs downstairs, but is stopped by him again as he says that he will disclose where Parisa is and tells him that she is on the upper floor in the corner room before wishing him good luck, but it is too late as Cyber, another prefect, arrives and puts this to a stop before hitting the president on the head for giving away Persia's position. Styber tells him that all of Inu's crew has been captured by Rex the bodybuilder and he should also surrender, but Inu refuses, which makes the president get serious as Inu suddenly feels a dangerous aura coming from him. Meanwhile, Persia tries to get out of her room by throwing chairs at the door, but she is totally locked inside. She thinks of the lengths that Inu was ready to go to meet with her and decides that she will do the same and opens the window to find a way to escape. In the hallways, Inu is getting his shit knocked in by the president, who slams him against the wall, and even when he tries to attack again, the president simply puts him down with a powerful ace kick and another kick as soon as he gets up. The president tells him to admit defeat if he doesn't want to make a joke out of himself, but Inu refuses and launches a kick, which is easily dodged by the president before he kicks him in the face, once again pushing him back. While breathing hard, Inu realizes that this guy is way too strong and his entire class has full faith in him. And now it hits him why these people are prefects, as they are a cut above everyone else in terms of pure strength and intellect, and there is no way he can match them right now. He tries to think of a way to defeat this guy who has a different fighting style than Eru, but before he could do anything, Inu hears a soft voice calling his name and recognizes it as Persia. This gives him motivation once again as he gets up and runs towards the president while taking his blazer off and throws it at the president, who strikes it away. But during that time, Inu succeeds in tying his legs with his own belt so that the president can neither kick nor chase him. Surprisingly, the president seems surprised and entertained by this strategy, and while he stands there impressed, Inu runs towards the window and jumps outside, shocking every single person in the room, but he looks up to see Persia with her hand stretched out. She grabs and pulls him up while Scott looks for Inu, only to find him gone. Back at the Black Dog Student Council, Kako runs into the council room and informs Eru that the first years are creating trouble at Persia's birthday party, and that's when Eru connects the dots and decides to deal with it personally. Back at the White Cat house, Inu asks Persia how she came to this balcony as she was supposed to be in a different room, but she replies that she simply climbed out the window and crawled her way here. Inu calls her insane for pulling such a stunt, but she gets mad at him instead for breaking in this dorm and risking everything to see her. She starts crying and tells him that she was very worried for him, but Inu grabs her and tells her that he is here to wish her a happy birthday. Persia asks him whether this was the only reason he involved every single person in the school and caused so much commotion, and this simple-minded fool says yes. He tells her that physical wounds can heal over time, but the wound of her rejecting him will swallow him like a black hole, but she starts hitting him, saying that she doesn't want to see him hurt, while he simply hugs her. She looks at him and finally confesses her love for him, which makes Inu cry, but she thinks about all the things they have gone through together in this boarding school to try and be with each other, and Inu has shown her that if you really want to be with someone, nothing and no one in this world can stop you from doing that. By this time, Eru has arrived at the dorm, and everyone in the Black Dog faction has gone completely silent, sitting on the floor in fear of their leader. Eru tells Hasuki to not let anyone move from their positions while he goes over and searches for Inu himself, but Maru's cronies want to escape punishment and try to run out of the door, but as soon as they open it, the most scary face greets them and knocks them both down once again. This femboy bodybuilder introduces himself as Rex, who is also on the student council, and claims that he wants to be the strongest as well as the cutest member of this school, while both of the cronies tremble at the sight of this abomination. He tells them that if they can outdo him in cuteness, he will let them go, so with a trembling voice they agree to the challenge as they don't really have any other choice. They try to be cute by performing a dance but get a punch in their face as Rex calls that uncute. They both hide behind Hasuki, who gets scared by this roid-abusing bastard as well, but Maru comes at the last moment and tells his cronies to get back in their dorm. The cronies ask Maru whether he came here because he was worried about their health, and even though he refuses, Red ends up admitting defeat as he calls Maru's actions cute. Suddenly, they all look up to see Persia and Inu both run towards each other with pies in one hand, and they hit each other at the same time, while Persia tells him that if he comes to do this next year, she won't spare him, while Inu tells his classmates that a draw is a win for them, and now they can retreat. Char smiles as everyone in the Black Dog faction runs outside, and Inu thinks that he finally won when Eru stops everyone and Inu freezes with fear. He immediately tries to act cool as Persia was watching and asks his brother what he wants, as all he did was throw pie at the enemy faction, which is not against the rules. Eru simply walks up the stairs and tells him straight to the face that he knows Inu and Persia are dating. Inu is shocked beyond belief while all the students are confused as to what is happening, but Persia speaks up and says that she can never date a Black Dog man and asks whether he has any evidence supporting his claim, while Scott and the others support her. Eru shows them the rosary that he found in Inu's room and tells her that even after being in strict supervision, he broke the rules at the very last hour, throwing everything away just so he can spend the birthday with you. He knows this because the day was marked on his calendar. Persia tells him that none of this evidence is enough to frame them, as the date could be a coincidence and anyone can buy a locket if they want. Eru then produces a plastic bag and says that he found a weird hat in Inu's room which some people told him only girls wear, but he has never seen such a thing before. This shocks everyone, and even Persia looks at him in disgust, asking who he could have gotten it from, but Char remembers that she was the one who put it in his room to mess with him. Before they can speak further, the White Cat president walks up and intervenes in his jolly tone, telling them to break this up, but Eru tells him to back off. The president looks at him and tells him that he is in the White Cat house, so he should piss off. He then looks towards Persia and asks for an explanation of all this, who is completely stunned and doesn't know what to do. Meanwhile, Eru picks Inu up by the collar and starts taking him to the dorm. Inu thinks about everything they have done and gone through so far and can't believe it is all ending like this, and in one last-ditch effort, he tries to shout her name, but a sword lands in his arms. Persia, standing on the balcony, says that she can't live with these filthy allegations on her and tells Inu to draw his sword as they have to end it right here, right now. Inu realizes that these are real sword and looks at Persia, but she says that her pride is more important than her life and challenges him to a duel on the honor of her house. Inu thinks that they can't do this as it isn't wooden swords that will just bruise them, but Persia doesn't wait and attacks him immediately. He blocks the attack and takes out his sword before Persia starts going haywire with the sword, attacking him from every direction while all he can do is block the attacks. Eru calls her bluff and tells her to stop the performance, but Persia replies that she won't stop until the allegations are cleared off of her and keeps attacking Inu, while Eru says that once this make-believe fight is over, he will take Inu back to the dorm and dish out some punishment. Inu, on the other hand, realizes that Persia is totally serious with her hits and isn't pulling back her strength at all. She tells him to not take her lightly and to show her his entire strength, and Inu remembers how she wanted to be treated as an equal, and he immediately gets into character and starts laughing like a villain and telling her that she won't come out of it alive, but Persia tells him to hit hard and true as if he doesn't kill her, she is going to kill him. They both run towards each other with their full speed and lock their swords, hitting each other near the throat while everyone watches in amazement and horror. Later that night, everyone sits outside the nurse's office as their suspicions seem to have subsided for the time being, as no one is able to believe two people who love each other can do such a thing, and if the presidents did not intervene in the last moment, they would have definitely killed each other without a second thought. Hearing them leave, Inu wakes up happily while Persia tells him to talk slowly as they reveal that they signaled each other to attack their lockets, and that's the reason why they are still okay. Persia starts crying of happiness while Inu reveals that she brought her a present and presents her with a matching pair of rings that he recently bought for the both of them. He tells her that he has decided to become a prefect so that he can change the school and be with her as openly as he wants, and puts the ring on her finger, which results in her hugging him and calling him her boyfriend, which makes his soul depart from this world out of joy. A couple days later, they are punished to stay in their room for a week while Hazuki gets mad at Inu for pulling such a stunt, and Char begs Persia not to try something like that ever again. Later one night, they meet up in the boat in the middle of the lake where Inu tells her that his brother is still slightly suspicious of him, but when Inu told him that he wanted to be a prefect, he didn't deny him for trying and even kept him as a helper who will do all the work required. Persia thanks him for everything he did and tells him that she wants them to be together forever, which excites Inu too much, and he falls off the boat into the water while Persia saves him once again, hoping that sooner or later they will be allowed to openly date each other. That's it for this video. Make sure to like and subscribe for part 2. And watch this next video on screen.